Hello. All right. So, as Erin was saying, and I should have said it myself, Erin, and you could have rested your voice. It's really this panel. We're going to just break down what you're doing today, dealing because of the loss of cookies and all of that. So, before we get started, if each of you, starting with you, Bridget, can introduce yourselves.
You know that feeling when you're between this and lunch? This is like tenfold of this in the airport. So hi, everyone. I'm Brigette Wolf. I'm the CMO of MyMochi. I have been there about 2 years. And prior to that, I spent decades at Kraft Foods and Mondelez. So I've been living and breathing CPG food for a while.
I'm Jennifer Peters. I'm the director of D2C Martech and digital compliance, so I appreciate all the legal conversation from earlier. At Olly, I've been at Olly for about 4 years. We're a gummy vitamin company, a Unilever brand, if you're not familiar with us. And that's about it.
Hi, I'm Stacy Bernstein, and I'm co-founder of All Better Co., and we are making better-for-you first aid products. So think bandages, Neosporin alternatives, hydrocortisone alternatives. And I just really quickly want to say a huge, huge thank you to Seth and MediaPost for having a small brand like me come and be a part of this, because it's been an incredible opportunity to listen to so many of you intelligent people providing so many incredible insights. So thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. It was awesome to have you. And I'm sorry, vibe right now is a little like it's Friday morning and no one, so let's up the energy here, ladies. Okay, so just to get started in terms of, let's break it down, turning to different ways of dealing with this cookie deprecation and really trying to reach consumers. Today's behaviors are changing. There's just so much going on that you've had to kind of sort of go back to old ways in some and then recreate new ones. So let's start with you, Jen. And you're going to set your tone right now.
Okay, I'll bring the energy.
Take one of your happy pills and talk about what you've been doing.
Yeah, we're a big brand, so we have a lot of luxuries that smaller brands don't have, but ultimately we do have the same problems at the end of the day. So for us, we are about 80% of our revenue comes from brick and mortar retail still. So that's a little bit different. We're very omni-channel. And one of our biggest challenges is really like identity resolution, like understanding, is this customer a churned customer, or is this customer shopping at Target? Is this customer shopping at Amazon? So that is a continual challenge for us, regardless of the cookie situation. And what we've done, our strategy has really been to invest in that identity resolution, to invest in a CDP, a customer data platform. The crazy thing, though, is that you can track every single thing on direct to consumer. I mean, everything is like a point of data. But once you get outside of that bubble, like Walmart's not going to give you good data, Target's not going to give you good data. So trying to kind of put those pieces together is really, really hard. And no one's mastered this, and I think it's going to be a while until we do. But Target's going to protect their data, Walmart's going to protect their data. Nobody likes to share, and so we end up making a lot of assumptions. So I think as long as we are kind of moving directionally correct, that is really helpful. It is very positive. The more times we can directly ask customers, like, where are you shopping? I mean, that's definitely an old school approach. It's like, send a survey, I mean, surveys can be sexy too. I think for us, it's really more of like, it is more of a digital strategy around identity resolution and understanding behaviors. And in some cases, just asking customers, where are you going?
Well, Stacy, I want to turn to you now completely on the other end of it, where you maybe can't invest in these expensive CDPs and whatnot. So what's your way of being able to track these consumers?
Yeah, I'm at a different, I actually think, advantage. And so I have an advantage that bigger companies don't have, because I'm small, I'm nimble, and we can act quickly. But we also didn't have the cookie problem. So when we started, that was never something that we had to engage in and then figure out a way to disengage. And so from the onset, I think I said this at the roundtable I was part of the other day, that we lead with brand. Like that is our priority, is brand and efficacy. And with very much intention, when we designed the brand, I was determined to have quite literally as beautiful a brand, as effective as our products are. And that has really helped us because we've spent the first year we spent really on brand identity, just brand awareness, brand equity, creating that brand loyalty, going out there, getting our product in the hands of as many people as possible. So it was very organic and very intentional, and learning information that way. But I think for us, it was just like blasting our products as much as we could and really creating brand equity.
And for Brigette, I know with you, you're kind of in the middle there, but you really had to get to know your consumers again.
Yeah. So the first thing everyone starts with is their product and their business, which I was remiss to say, what is mochi ice cream? So it's a little scoop of premium ice cream wrapped in a soft, sweet dough, which is from the Japanese heritage of the CPGs. So it's kind of a different experience of eating ice cream. So that's great. We know who we are. The next question is, who do we want to talk to and who is actually buying us? And so we do. You go a little bit old school. If you have the D2C, which we don't because it's actually quite expensive to ship ice cream out and hope that it survives. It's a lot of PTSD around sampling ice cream. But you go back and we did research, and it's who are our consumers, and there were hypotheses of like, oh, we're with every Gen Z, and we're with all these like gamers, and it was like, I don't know about that, because the people that I actually talk to, and this is where you can actually start quite small, is using your community and your network and your relationships of like, do you know my brand? Do you know my product? Who buys it? And lo and behold, it was often parents or maybe the kids that went out for sushi. And then we actually brought in some formal researchers and had those hypotheses tested out. And we're like, yep, this is now our target. And what did that mean? Well, we had to change and get off some of the TikTok and actually go to Facebook because that's an older crowd. But that crowd's the one that's buying mochi for their family. And so understanding who your consumer is and what motivates them, and then the next question is, well, how did we fit in their lives? Then it translates to how do we talk to them and how do we bring joy and start explaining what the benefits are and if it's portion control or calorie or giving ideas. All of that goes back to really human understanding versus cookie understanding. And so there's a lot of fun technology, and our media company will tell you we can track what we can't. Like, can you just find these audiences at a broad strokes, and then we're going to have, back to the conversation about creative, things that resonate with them and that we can talk to them about.
Well, and so when you are finding these different audiences, and again, maybe even adjusting what your creative is based on what your findings are, then how are you determining what platforms to go to, what channels, where it's again, they all have their own identities, and assuming you don't have just this budget that you can spend all you want, how are you then targeting or going to that right location, that platform, to reach those particular customers? And
some of it's proxy, right? So, Facebook will tell you this is in general who our platform users are. And so for there, like, that's a market that we can then target. Then there's different affinity groups and what people associate with or where they are using it. I'm trying to deliberately not use the word click so we don't talk about cookies. But every platform has a bit of a knowledge of who their audience base. And even we're launching a new campaign next year on bigger screen. And so the question is, well, what are the audiences of those shows and those networks? And they have that information still. And you can get a proxy too as to talk to your consumers. You go into your social media and you ask them, how do you hear about us? Who do you talk to? Where did you learn about it? And you hear, that gives you insights as well as to, was it a referral? Someone was a friend who tasted it, or I sampled it somewhere, or we saw this and we know if certain ads get shared or the engagement on there, like what's kind of how we can track and find them.
Well, and so then, Stacy, I wanted to put this to you because, again, getting back to that scrappier mentality and what we heard earlier with partnerships and really finding that. But as a smaller brand, maybe you're not as appealing as a partner, no offense.
I find myself really appealing.
As, Jen might be at Olly. So just talk about how you go about, you want that right partnership that's you're going to benefit from, but you also have to offer something in return, as they were, we heard so much from Bear.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Storytelling is a huge piece of what we do, and so I think there's two pieces and two different types of partners. I was joking this morning, when someone asks us who our target demographic is, the truth is anyone with skin. It's everyone. However, we know who we want to speak to, right? We want to speak to the person that is typically going to buy our product, which is head of household, moms, typically, right? So we're still in that space. So I still lean heavily into influencer. I mean, because they are the trusted source. We are a brand that is trying to create trust. You will come to us because you know our products. We've thought about what we put in our products. We're thinking about your family, your skin, what you're putting on your body. And so we look to partner with influencers that truly we've just created goodwill with. I haven't paid a single influencer. I just get my product into their hands. I pull favor after favor, digging really deep. But I think those types of collaborations, when they can speak very authentically to how they're using our product, I consider those partnerships. Then the other piece is that any outside of that, where I'm going to put any money, which has not been into any digital or media, by the way, yet, I'll give you an example. We are in Pop-Up Grocer, which is a very niche, curated pop-up store in New York City, and they curate their brands and look for new emerging brands. Like, there's a lot of cool kids that play in that space, and you have to go through an approval process, but then there's a fee to be on shelf, right? So I think about that fee, and anytime I'm going to spend money, my money has to work extra hard for me. It has to do multiple things. So when I think of Pop-Up Grocer, one, on a marketing front, when I say Pop-Up Grocer to a lot of other buyers, their eyes open because it's like where the cool kids are. And they bring in their own events. So they're bringing influencers, they're bringing people that come through the store with intention. So I get content and photography from being in there. They share lists, so if there are specific events, I have opportunity for seating. I get some press. And then the kind of cherry on the top is that I get some sales. So it really maximizes all of my opportunities.
Well, and so talking about the cool kids, and I know, Jen, you made reference that you are playing with the bigger boys, say, or girls, and or women, and but you want to hang out with the cool kids. That gives you a little bit cachet.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think in any good partnership, it's a win for everybody. It's got to be a win-win. And for us, we're a mass brand. You can find us anywhere. But what we're looking for is thought leadership and influence and kind of these other things that will make us seem not just like something you can buy at Walgreens. We've done a couple partnerships with very small startups that are just super cool with very premium products. And that kind of elevates us. And, we dabbled a little bit in gifting last year, and we don't always think about vitamins as a great gift. But, we put together some beautiful sleep gift sets with a partner that is a big thought leader in that space. And so I think there's a lot to do there in places where there are complementary products but not competitive, but also we want to work with brands that are cool because we're not that cool anymore. And that's culturally a really hard thing because we were a startup. We got acquired by Unilever in 2019. And we have a lot of people internally still who think we're a startup. And so that transition of I always describe our company as we're in our awkward teenage years. We don't know if we're a kid or if we're not sure if we're ready to be an adult yet. And even by department within our culture, there's some people that are there, and there's some people that are remember when we only shipped to Target? That was so great. That is not great. That is absolutely not great. So I think it's kind of our evolution as well of who are we, and asking that question a lot about who are we, and are we being honest with ourselves? That's something we have to do a lot.
Well, you mentioned in terms of also just finding those right partners, and it's interesting, even Danny spoke of it yesterday in terms of it's not necessarily the partner you might think of.
Exactly.
And so how do you mentioned the sleep, which totally makes sense. You have vitamins that help you sleep, so something to do with, maybe it's a mattress or whatever, I don't know. But how else, are you looking for those kind of creative ways and how are you finding those and then making that partner get that's why there's a benefit there?
We get a lot of outreach from different brands that want to do partnerships, and some make sense and some don't. So I think it's really focusing on the ones that are going to make the biggest impact, because we get a lot of requests. We really only want to do 2 or 3 big ones in a year. can't do everything. So I think one of our criteria that we really look at is like, how can we play this out in all the different channels where we are? Like, what does this look like in Target? What does this look like on Walmart.com? What does this look like on social? And if we can find a partner that can kind of really live in all those places with us and alongside us, that's usually a pretty good match. But we want someone who is going to bring to the table like a different kind of customer, but just slightly different, not like a totally different person, but somebody who maybe hasn't heard of us or maybe has never tried any of our products. So I think it's really kind of like finding the right thing and then kind of creatively figuring out like, now what do we do? Like, what do we make something? Do we do a partnership giveaway? Like, what is the next step then that will bring value and kind of like unite our two groups of customers together?
And Bridget, I know, which we can no longer talk about, but we can refer to or infer to. But you had a larger brand come to you, which is really exciting. And talk about that.
So I first want to say, like, I think when you think about partnerships there's a lot of different things that, and I would even call it collaborations that you can do with brands, right? If it's just, we're going to post something that you're doing and do a joint giveaway, or we'll just support you in that community. And I think what's fun is you can elevator it to really small brands or big. So we had a very small brand come to us that was doing a Target launch, and they were doing a launch party. And we're like, oh, we'd love to support that. And so we showed up and participated in that evening, and we got the benefit of their social, their media. We had people sampling, and it was great because they didn't have the money to pay for a ton of people to support it, and we could come in and get amplified through their community. And then the flip side is a big brand came to us who has spoken here. And for us, it's a question of how do we partner with them kind of on a national scale with big retailers and make a big presence. And in this case, it's something where the consumers actually overlap really well. Their consumers were looking for more branded things of theirs and ice cream. We see the consumer fit really well in who their base is, and they have really good equity that we can then tap into. So it's really a win-win. They get to play in different categories. They get the licensing. We get to borrow equity and have some really fun new campaigns that we can play out that fit into a new product that we're launching even elsewhere. So I think it's kind of, we were joking even the other day, like you talk about gratitude of what is every element, like it may not all be perfect, but like what can we get from this partner and how much of a lift it is. Like sometimes, like in our bigger case, it's a big financial commitment, it's a bigger operational commitment. We want to make sure that has like a really big payoff. In other cases, it's a small lift. Like we can show up, we can help sample, or we can, again, just do a social collaboration and promote each other. And you can do a lot of those too, and you just build your influence and your network of consumers because now you're borrowing on other people's communities.
Well, I was just going to add, I mean, there's such, like, we have to be super creative about it, right? So thinking about, like, we're going into the holiday season, and who's thinking about bandages and ointments during holiday season? But we, thought, well, people are traveling, so we swing big. So we'll go and we'll just knock down the doors of much bigger brands that we are because we know they have the resources. So when we do a giveaway with them, we ran one giveaway with a company much bigger with them. I went out to them. They were like, you know what? You're aligned. You have the same brand mission. Let's do something. So when they did it, they ran all the ops on it. So I benefit. I gained 3,500 email addresses. I got access I got eyeballs driven to all of my socials, maybe my website. And so it goes back to what do I want to get from it? And for us right now, like I said, it all goes back to us for right now, as we're looking to expand at retail this year, is brand awareness and just getting really creative. And again, for small brands and for bigger brands, like take chances because we do bring a lot to the table, creativity, innovation, and different segments and audiences.
Well, I think, as you said in the onset, you have that advantage of being the new brand, so you can take those chances. But when you're a more established brand, do they need to, I mean, Jen, this can be for you, do you guys need to put that hat on a little bit, or can you take that risk? Like, is there opening for you to be able to do that?
Well, I think we get a little jealous at the agility that smaller brands have because, when you're Unilever. So everything takes twice as long. I think it is a good exercise in just like mental discipline too, because you can kind of get back to that way of thinking if you try hard enough. When you're on a marketing team and you're on a smaller team, you can be agile if you try hard enough. And so I think it's a good reminder to us too that not everything has to be such a big deal. Like we can kind of be a little scrappier than maybe we would normally be.
Yeah, I think someone said yesterday, and I can't remember who, about leaving that portion of the budget to try that new thing. That's something that that's out of the box. And I think that seems to be a smart way to go.
Definitely.
Well, so Bridget, when you were starting earlier about trying to find out who your consumer is now and finding out, but again, getting your own first-party data, because that's certainly a priority now with many of you with the cookie deprecation. How are you getting that kind of data?
So we have, if you go to our website, someone will ask for your email. When we have our community, our social community manager, someone that we're trying to create direct relationships with. So someone will post something and then we'll reach out to them. And that actually builds an incredible affinity base, and then you start learning more. And then we can start using more of that. So if we want to know our next seasonal flavor, we can do a survey and try and see who's responding to that. If we want to do some even testing with our creative or what something, should we be talking about this or some of the user generated? Whenever they're engaging with us, we try and then do a double click back to them. And it's harder because it's a lot of work. When you're a small team, it's a lot of work to keep up with all of the comments and truly building an authentic relationship. But you just have to have that discipline. And when people reach out to you, whether it's inquiries or even complaints too, don't forget every part of your organization is a consumer touch point. So whether they're in store and they're buying it, they're online calling you either about something good or bad, that's always an opportunity still to delight them. And then if they're in social media and they're commenting on it, or if you see anyone tagging us, we kind of reach out to them.
And so I see Aaron standing. So what I really want to hear from you guys in terms of, which we've all been talking about, having to be so consumer-centric and keeping them at the forefront. How are you really doing that right now? Perhaps you've been doing it somewhat, but have expanded on that? Or just what's the priorities right now? And Stacy, we can just start with you. And then we'll open up to questions. Okay.
This is my favorite part because, again, it all goes back to brand. So right now, because we are small, we're very forward-facing as founders. I'm there all the time on our socials. I'm popping up. I'm doing events. I'm the one, and we can go out to different local events. We have a great partner in Air One. We're in all the Air One locations, and I get to go there to do education with their employees and then do demos. But we prioritize our consumer right now because we depend on them for their sphere of influence. So I'm constantly talking to people in our messages directly. We get inbound. I'm the person. I write personal notes to customers. If they've bought from us more than 2 times, I send a note and I thank them and we give them incentives. And I want the customers to feel like they are part of our community, and I personalize it. And something that's really interesting we're doing right now is that we're doing our first raise, but we're also doing a Reg CF raise, which is a community raise. And very authentically, when we hit our goal, it will be our community coming back in and having equity in our company. And they will be able to grow a brand that they believe in. And so that also becomes a marketing message. That's also going to become part of who we are and in our DNA. So really forward-facing, and I prioritize the people who are buying from us because they are trusting us. So I'm talking to them always.
Well, Jen, you probably don't have the luxury to answer everyone who reaches out. So on your end, how are you really prioritizing them?
In the D2C space, we're doing a lot with AI. So we're doing a lot with really real-time decisioning on the back end in that space. So for us, it's really, if you take a supplement, not all of our supplements are daily use. We have some that are and some that aren't. And so we've built this AI model internally that analyzes a customer's behaviors, their buying behaviors, what we know about the product, what we know about the speed of consumption that customer has about that product, and we're able to message them in real time when it's time for them to rebuy. So that, I think, is probably the biggest accomplishment that we've made in the past year. Is really, we always say in marketing, the right message at the right time. Is a lot harder when you have a lot of different products and a lot of different segments. And for us, this machine is kind of doing what we could never do as a human being. One person couldn't do this. It's really instant analysis on this person buys gut health. This person takes it every day. We know that this is the date that they get this SMS message. So there's a lot of that, and I think that has really kind of moved us forward. Our business is very subscription-based. We've about 40% of D2C business is subscription, but there are always those customers that will not subscribe, and that's kind of that space that we've been really trying to squeeze all the drops out of it that we can. Subscription's easy. They're easy to message. It's easy to manage. Products like ours, you don't necessarily jump from product or like even from brand to brand. Once you start taking a supplement, you usually kind of stick with it at least a little bit. So kind of moving outside of the subscription-only model, like really looking at those other customers that are more casual buyers, just making sure that we can message them at the right time.
So I have learned that I keep things really, really simple. It just helps. So my first question to everyone is, anyone in here an AI bot? No, so you woke up this morning as a human, right? And you...
I was like waiting for someone to
some of you might
raise
not
their
have
hand.
felt like a human, but it is really important that humans are at the center of all of this. They are the ones buying and consuming our goods and services. And if you forget that they're a human, remind yourself, like, what would I do? What would my family do? Can I talk to a neighbor? Is there a college student around, or is there a grandparent? Because I really think at the essence of what we serve is just reminding, it's not the consumer, right? It's not that profile. It is a person who is going to pick up, go into that store, and what is a normal behavior? Like, what's in their routine? And having a level of human empathy has become so much more important to me in the world of so much data, because it is still humans who are buying our stuff, and they're the ones who will come back, and we have to serve them. So it just sometimes reminds me of, like, at the most basic level, do you like it? Does the package work? Did we deliver okay? I'm always amazed when I would go into a packaging engineering agency and they have all these like funky stuff. I'm like, would anyone ever carry that? Like, it's really cool, but I don't know anyone that would wear like a beer case on my back like this. And so I think just trying to really always have an understanding of who are these people and when are they eating it or using your product, and what drives their motivations is the under essence at like a really simple level.
Any questions?
Come on, guys. Who's going to
One
be the
over
last
here.
question of the conference? You may get a prize. It might be Yvonne's book.
Thank you all. Super interesting. Kat Limner from Walmart Connect. A variety of scale here, from like writing handwritten notes to using AI and automation to communicate with your customers. What's the right like inflection point of a size of audience to truly understand your audience behaviors and be able to read that at like a broader scale for some of these smaller brands and bigger brands? Like, how big does the audience need to be, and what do you find?
Can you guys tell me?
It's people with skin, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think for us, it doesn't matter. Like, the inflection point for us is whatever it is. Like, we are where we are, so we're always speaking to the customer that's in front of us and with us. And the way that we have to, we just have to we're just scrappy. So we don't really have that right now. So we can't even evaluate that. I think as we get into more distribution and as we grow, and then this is something I was talking about my advisors with this week that brought me here. We're starting to talk to Sprouts. We're starting to talk to these folks. And as we get ready, something that we think about, other than the idea of like, wow, it's going to be amazing when we get into those places, are we ready? Will we have the ability? Will we be ready for the media spend? Will we be ready to have the analytics? Because we have to then be a good partner to our retailer, and we have to perform. So for me, it's going to be really, I think, as we're scaling into distribution, that's really where we're going to have to start to think differently. I hope that.
Yeah, and I would just say it's like a little bit of a test and learn, because you can do a small scale market, and the question was that enough to move the needle there? That gives me the confidence to say on a bigger scale. So I don't need to have a big scale. I just need to know what moves the needle to some case test.
Jen, I would think, well, because you kind of were her, and then you've grown, and now you're Unilever, so you sort of had that trajectory.
We have, and I think our strategy is really more around breaking down our product segments, matching those to the customer segments, because the person who buys gut health is not the same person who buys teen girl. So taking our products and kind of chunking those out around the buying behaviors helps us sort of bucket those, figure out how are these customers different, how are these customers in different channels, how do they behave in those channels, and what is the right message, and how big is that audience, and is this segment really hot right now? Like, I mean, magnesium's one of the hottest supplements out there right now. Taylor Swift takes it, so you know it's good. So, I mean, that is kind of like, okay, who wants to buy magnesium? And right now we know it's hot, so let's focus on this segment. But I think there's a constant shift and a constant balance of like, people really cared about ashwagandha last year. They don't really care about it as much this year. This year it's magnesium. Next year, we think it's going to be charcoal. So, which is gross, but whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this happens, but I think it is really kind of just like constant shifting to like, this is a priority for us right now. This is what people want. These are those people. Here's where they are. But it changes all the time.
We are one question. All right, Yvonne, just because it's you.
I want your book. I want your book. I'm curious.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to give it to each of you. So the whole, Jennifer, the whole point of attribution is attribution, right? But then we marketers, we find like ourselves at a dead end because there's a broken link. Mm-hmm. So, but then on the other side, we have all this data from the retail media. So how do you do to marry the data that you see on your side with the data that you see on the other side, and what are the similarities, and they match up?
That's a great question, because that is the hardest thing in omnichannel. I mean, it is almost impossible. The data that we get from retailers doesn't look like the data we have from D2C. It just doesn't look the same. I think what we've found, and this is a great thing, is that the customers in different channels are different. They're different demographics. Sometimes they're older, sometimes they're younger, sometimes they live in the South and Midwest, and sometimes they live in the West Coast. So we don't have as much channel overlap as we thought we did. But at the same time, it's not ever a number you're going to be able to pin down. Like, you're never going to be like, here's the point of data on how we merge these things, and this is what we see. Like, it's just a constant struggle. It's a constant project. And there's tools out there that you can use. Do any of them do everything? No, but they'll get you most of the way there. And at the end of the day, sometimes you have to make a little bit of assumptions. Sometimes you have to use a theory that you might have to kind of merge those up. But I think the good thing for us is that the channels are different enough. People in those channels behave differently enough that we can at least adapt to who those people are and what channels they're in.
Stacy, Jennifer, Bridget, thank you guys so much.